The term Art Deco refers to a period of fashion. But fashion in what? And what period? It was fashion in a whole range of things, oodles of things. And the period for Art Deco was the era between the two world wars, the 1920s and the 1930s. We repeat that. The term Art Deco applies to many different fields of fashion and design, and the era was the 1920s and 1930s. But today's presentation looks at house styles and their contents from that era. We will dodge along until we run out of time, and we'll stop when we need to stop. That's the deal I made with the President. So, we will speak first of the house styles of Art Deco years. Check up the back all right so far? Thank you. Two particular design styles in housing were fashionable. One of those was the extremely popular Californian bungalow style of design. The other house style was the streamlined style, sometimes called ultra modern. We commence. Is it up there? Is it all right?
Yep.
Okay. We commence with the Californian bungalow style. The one on the screen was built in solid brick with tiled roof in the middle 1920s. The solid brick house has no skeleton timber frame. The outside walls are built in double brick with a cavity between the two vertical external walls. The internal dividing walls are built in single brick. The roof loading is carried by all of those brick walls. A strong design feature in the Californian bungalow style was the front veranda area, always built in rather heavy construction, heavier than required actually, and with strong pillars. This one has an arch treatment. We see a projecting bay window there, which was another popular feature in the bungalow style. There was a matching front fence, say about 1925 for that house. Oh dear.
Yeah, got it.
It's there, okay. Tapestry bricks were popular for internal fireplaces in the Art Deco era, but sometimes a builder would use tapestry bricks for trim work like that to add a non-expensive decorative touch to the outside walls. This timber house dates to 1935 and is an excellent example of the Californian bungalow style in timber. The outside cladding, of course, is horizontal timber boards. The weatherboard house. The roof is carried by a timber skeleton frame. The weatherboards are fixed to that same frame, rather like a skin. In this example, the roof covering is corrugated galvanised iron, but tiles were very popular too. Ceiling or wall insulation was not usual at the time, but was very often added in later years. Gables were another strong feature in the bungalow style. A gable is formed when an outside wall of a house goes up to a point, like an upside down letter V. We see a gable above that front window and another at the side of the house. Keep the term gable in mind as we proceed. Here is another typical Californian bungalow of the early 1930s. Most of the brickwork in this example is rendered in cement plaster and painted. Any exposed bricks are there as trim work. And we note again those heavy brick veranda pillars. This particular house was built in Glenhuntly as a display home by a local estate agent who went on to become one of the best known major house builders in Australia, Mr. A.V. Jennings, 1934. A known date here, 1930. A young lady about to be married asked her builder, Mr. Owen, if it would be possible to have a tall cement pillar as a feature at the front veranda. The builder said, I have a plan with 3 pillars. There they are. We note also again the use of gables. We go closer to the 3 pillars with the photo coming up. There they are. At the same house, we see a bay window with another Art Deco feature, the use of LED light in the upper half of some of the windows. The LED light glass is not easy to identify in this photo though. It is worth noting that the term Californian bungalow was not used at the time in conversation or in advertising. The style was known as semi-modern. And that is the term you will find in the estate agent's advertisements of the era. Semi-modern. The descriptive term Californian bungalow is quite correct, but in Australia it drifted in slowly as a descriptive term as time went along. Another typical Californian bungalow, probably mid-1930s. This one has no gables. The roof is shaped in hip style, H-I-P, hip style. Above that front window to our right, the wall stops at a horizontal line, at the spouting line, and the roof slopes back from there, and that is a hip, as distinct from a gable. A variation of the Californian bungalow was the Spanish mission treatment. Arched windows and arched openings were used, and sometimes Spanish Cordova tiles were used for the roof, but not for this one. Piley twist pillars were used at the veranda. Where do I go back? Here's those Piley twist pillars. I wish the photo was better. That is a close-up of the hip, seen a moment ago just as a reminder, where the roof slopes back from a horizontal line.
Just a quick click.
Yes.
Lord, just a quick click. Don't hold the button down, just a quick click.
Okay. Good. Thank you. All I have to do is find the place now. Builders and designers tried all sorts of variation to the basic bungalow style. The result here is quite distinctive. We will go closer. Yeah, that's better, Chief, isn't it? Rather nice. Next, the designer really went to town with this one. A bit of this and a bit of that. We see a circular entrance porch topped by a pepper pot lid. I'll say that again, a pepper pot lid. A dormer window in the roof, and good heavens, look at that, an elevated bay window at the side wall up in the air. Bit unusual. And of course a matching fence. We spoke of the gable roof and the hip roof. So what is this one? It starts off as a gable, but halfway up changes to a hip. That is called a lay-back gable. We will see it again in the photo coming up. Those buildings are known as villa pairs or maisonettes. But we should note that housing terms can become a bit mixed from one era to another and from one locality to another. To our left we see gables. To our right we see lay-back gables. Is that clear enough in the photo? The Californian bungalow style was introduced in America prior to the First World War, say around 1910. It was adopted in Australia immediately after the First War, from the early 1920s and onwards. This example is a more elaborate version than some of those seen so far. It would be more expensive too. And you can find it just up the road in Hyatt. But what about this one? Larger still, with gables as the big feature. I pinched that photo from the book. We go now to the modest end of the price scale with this one. The Depression era produced many houses that look like that. A Californian bungalow with no frills. They are well constructed and comfortable, but not large. They were built to an affordable cost. This one is 1932, with a corrugated galvanised iron roof, usually called tin. Weatherboard houses were built around a skeleton timber frame, as we have said. This one has gables at front and sides, and we see on this one shading window hoods. Here is a modest veranda pillar. There's 2 bedrooms, and later on perhaps an added sleep out. That was a very common pattern. We jump to the higher end of the price scale. That's a handsome looking building, do you agree? Could we call it an upmarket Californian bungalow? We see there the circular entrance porch with a shallow pepper pot lid and a laid-back gable above it, and matching chimneys. Today, an estate agent would speak of this very fine example of traditional Art Deco design. And now we move to the streamlined style. In all areas of Art Deco fashion, geometry and bright colours were prominent. Straight lines, angles, triangles, curves. Streamlining was based on the geometric shape of the curve. Motor cars of the era adopted it, as did locomotives and aircraft. But those vehicles were seeking smooth airflow, not just fashion. This house at Bendigo was built for the family that made Carracks soft drinks. Houses in streamlined style, far and away far and away were outnumbered by the Californian bungalow style in the Art Deco era. Cost might have been a reason. The usual descriptive term for the streamlined style in advertising at the time was ultra-modern. Ultra-modern. That term eventually faded out, as did the term semi-modern for the Californian bungalow. We go closer. The fence posts are curved to match the house. The window glass is held in steel metal frames. At a later period, aluminium frames were introduced for new houses to avoid the ongoing maintenance of steel window frames, which were subject to rust if painting was neglected. This streamlined pair can be seen in Hawthorne Road. But to dodge the nest of overhead wires, we will go closer. We note the trim work in brick. The window glass is shaped to follow around the curve. There it is again, curved glass. But in this one, the glass is not curved, it is flat. The window steps around the curve in a series of straight sections. There is a better view of the stepped effect. Just look at that. It is a Hollywood house. An example of elaborate double-storey streamlining from the Art Deco era. Is this the same property? No. I have stayed at this Gold Coast resort several times. In the Art Deco era, the Gold Coast was simply a scattering of holiday shacks in swampy land. And I have stayed at this resort at Mandurah, Western Australia. Streamlined design style made a huge comeback from about 1980 for resort development around Australia, copied from the Art Deco era. Modern cruise ships have also latched onto the Art Deco theme for their interior design. They are almost carbon copies of one another. Back to that Hollywood house. If you owned a property like that, you had to have a sweeping staircase like this. Note also the classy looking Art Deco entrance doors. You like those? We go back to Hawthorne Road to remind ourselves of some of the features we have mentioned. Streamlining, that's the curve shape. Trim work in tapestry brick, curved glass, and again strong veranda columns. But sometimes a mixed parcel of features did not work so well as we are about to see. You make your own commentary with this one. And just as a side comment before we proceed, the term Art Deco that I am using so freely did not exist in the period that we are speaking of. Did you get that? Perhaps that does not make sense, but in fact the term Art Deco was invented in 1968 by an American journalist in reference to the fashion area between the wars. Yes, 1968. The term caught on like lightning and stayed. Such things happen. And now, to some items found inside the Art Deco houses. First, some furniture, like that. And I will try to move fairly quickly now, but give me a call if you want a longer look at something. Watch out for geometry and colour. Geometry, where the stitching takes us in many directions. Self-explanatory. Half circle geometry.
Imagine.
I think I've missed one. No, I haven't. Sorry. Those are French Art Deco chairs. They were popular on the ocean liners of the era. Liners like the Queen Mary and the others latched onto the Art Deco theme in no uncertain manner. French Art Deco chairs. Again, through Art Deco, as we keep saying, geometry and colour were features in all areas of Art Deco fashion, such as curtain fabrics, fashion clothing, ladies' clothing especially. Is that Art Deco in style? No. It's an example of what is called fashion revival. When that young lady who wanted the pillars, remember her, moved into her new house, a lounge suite in Jacobean style was installed. It is still in use, in perfect condition, in another house within the family circle. Jacobean style was a fashion revival from 300 years earlier. And that really is revival, 300 years. The timber, okay, there it is. The timber is very dark brown with scalloping. The side panels are in woven cane. Our Art Deco review continues with the obligatory silver tea service. Dressing table items. The very elegant lady to our left is as Art Deco as you can get. That sinuous sweeping line. Some ceramic items now. That one. And another. Excuse my bumbling boys. I'm doing the best. Yes, that's the one I want. Blocks of Art Deco colours on a milk jug. Listen to this, a carbon copy of that milk jug. Lost it again, haven't I? There it is. A carbon copy of that milk jug was seen recently on Antiques Roadshow, valued at $2,000. The jug set. We visit the kitchen to check out the canister set. It's a bit tricky. Those are clear glass jars, short ones and tall ones, with red lids. Of course, the nutmeg jar was used for spare coins, and loose pieces of string were saved in the caster sugar jar. But for some odd reason, salt was kept in the salt jar. Well, that's how it was at my place. A copy of that ultra-modern 1932 electric toaster can be purchased today at any Harvey Norman store. Pencil sharpener? No. That is a cigar cutter. A cigar cutter. Streamlined, of course. What is that? That is a baby grand piano with the lid raised, built in Art Deco style and photographed from the rear. Had you worked that one out? Now, some Art Deco glass figurines. This set in modern style, and this medieval representation. The cabaret dancer Josephine Baker favoured bizarre costumes in the 1920s at Paris. That figurine shows Josephine Baker in her famous skirt of bananas. A bedroom clock, oh yes, very Art Deco in its strong colours and geometric lines. An early electric hot plate, 1936. Look carefully. What is it? It's an ice chest. Open the top lid and the iceman places a block of ice into the cavity at the top. In summer, he calls again 3 days later with another block of ice wrapped in a Hessian bag and carried on his shoulder. That is his delivery vehicle. Streamlined, of course, about 1939. But I need to say that the iceman that came to our place operated from a shaky old tray truck with wheat bags covering the blocks of ice. It was not a glamorous affair like that one. Fuel stoves and open fireplaces used blocks of wood delivered by the woodman. The blocks were split at home with an axe or a Canadian splitter like that. When the flower seeds were planted, the empty packet was tacked to a vertical timber stud in the garage as a reminder of what had been planted. Well, that's what happened at my place. In the kitchen, the gas stove is purely a Metters product with the Kookaburra logo on view. Australia was able to manufacture most of the household appliances in that era. But now, you say, so do we. Whether the kitchen stove was wood-fired or gas-fired, safety matches were needed to light it. Bryant and May was a popular brand. The redhead label was not used in the Art Deco era. It arrived later. By later, I mean after the Second War. And later still, this redhead appeared in a cartoon, poking fun at the ALP brand of safety matches. The Bryant and May match factory at Richmond is no longer a match factory, but the clock spelling out the company name in 12 letters is still there, isn't it? As is the building itself, with the famous clock intact on the tower. Michael, aged 14, has a poster of his sporting idol pinned to the bedroom wall. Don Bradman was at his peak in the 1930s. Michael has this poster pinned to another wall as Bradman launches into Cover Drive. Michael's sister, Alice, admires the 1934 Wimbledon singles champion, Jack Crawford of Australia. He plays in long white trousers. Alice treasures this postcard signed by the great Jack Crawford. And may I please have a drink? Back to Michael's bedroom. There is a wall poster of triple Brownlow medalist Hayden Bunton of Fitzroy, showing the Bunton kicking style at the Fitzroy Oval. The Sharon Company at Melbourne was a top manufacturer of footballs. They made 20,000 footballs per year and more. Michael won't take his football outside on wet days. Michael is lucky. Very few youngsters of the Depression era were given a football as a birthday present. Those spiked batting gloves are the smart style of the day, but Michael knows only too well that a cricket ball has an uncanny knack of striking a finger on a part not protected by the spikes as the glove slips about and the ball lifts suddenly off the pitch. Whack! The kitchen cupboard is important. There we find Australian products like the recently introduced Rosella logo. Michael's father has a camera, an expensive folding one. Look at that, Alan. Those 1934 model binoculars belong to Michael's mother. How do we know that? We know it because she tried them out for the first time at the 1934 Melbourne Cup, won by Peter Pan. The jockey was Darby Munro. Note the fashionable fur collar and the obligatory hats for the seat in the members' stand at Flemington. Having mentioned clothing, we might point out that the very first part of the overall Art Deco period was the Roaring '20s, when clothing fashion went bonkers. Chiming mantel clocks were fashionable in the Art Deco era. The family didn't hear the chimes at night, but visitors couldn't sleep. And in some other house, the visitors can't sleep either. Washing machines were arriving in the 1930s, simple in design, but most families could not afford them. Most households were satisfied to have a hand-driven clothes wringer like that one, fixed between a pair of laundry troughs that caught the water as it was squeezed out. The regular job for youngsters was to wind that looming handle as mother steered the sheets and clothing into the roller. Be careful not to jam your fingers again, mother, like you did last time. Keep winding, Michael, or you will be late for school. Now that is not a seat for two. It is a top-of-the-range gas room heater, so don't sit upon it. We have said a fair bit about streamlining. There is a zippy looking streamlined pram from 1938. In 1939, this experimental pram was tried out. The Second War had commenced. The idea was to protect the baby in the event of a gas attack. And you are about to suggest that the baby would be safely outside the pram rather than inside the pram. The contraption did not catch on. Fancy that. How does Michael's family travel? Michael's father is the sales manager for a manufacturing company. He is supplied with a 1935 Ford Deluxe sedan. It has some streamlining. The managing director of the company has a more prestigious Buick from the same era, in the same year, 1935. Michael's mother travels into the city by electric tram. Her sister lives in a different suburb, serviced by cable trams, and the final day for those was 26 October 1940. Local shopkeepers made deliveries with bicycles fitted up for the job. Michael's mother has her own bike for local shopping trips. It is fitted with a dress guard made from string netting. Michael is saving hard. When he is just a bit older, he will graduate to a semi-racer like that one. Maybe it will be a Melbourne Star, and by then he should have enough cash in hand to pay the price of about £15. But he will find out that having no mud yards is not good on wet days. But the white wall, the tyres, are the very smartest thing. Michael's parents had a trial run on a side-by-side tandem. It was not a success. Too slow, he said. Too fast, she said. So it went back to the shop. But this 1935 electric record player did not go back to the shop. It was a popular family item. No handle to wind up. What an improvement. On it, they played records like this one. The internationally popular Australian baritone, Peter Dawson, singing the Cobbler's Song. And on the reverse side, The Road to Mandalay. Michael's mother is a fan of Nelson Eddy and Jeanette McDonald. The American film stars, she buys their records. She especially likes their duet, The Indian Love Call. When I'm calling you will answer too. That must be the corniest song ever written. The Indian Love Call. Michael enjoys George Formby with his banjo. When I'm cleaning windows, and on the other side, leaning on a lamppost. Alice is taking piano lessons. Australian concert pianist Eileen Joyce is her favourite. In London, Eileen Joyce is taking the music world by storm. Her recordings are highly successful. Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring by Shaya Spark is a big winner for her, with huge sales in the record shops. She grew up on the Kalgoorlie goldfields in very modest circumstances. Mr. President, it is 10 to 12. What do you want to do? Keep going.
No, wind up.
Wind up. When I was singing in choirs, that means repeat the chorus. I'll stop there. We didn't have all that many to go. No, 5 minutes, but there we are.